Do you think that Shannon was treated differently to Dublin and Cork by the airlines in terms of connectivity and prioritising the limited connectivity that remained in the state in response to COVID?
Peter, I think it's quite obvious that Aer Lingus made the decision very early in the pandemic to cease operations in Shannon entirely, while, look, whatever about Dublin Airport and the volumes of traffic and cargo that moves through it, I think you compare the experience of Shannon Airport to Cork Airport, where Aer Lingus have, as best they could, maintained the routes, and particularly as regards the effect on the workers in Cork versus the workers in Shannon. Our operational people in Cork continue to work, albeit at 30% of the hours that they normally would and at 30% of the earnings they are. But there has been the wholesale temporary layoff of staff employed by Aer Lingus in Shannon Airport.
Thanks. Ayalpa wish to come in, either of our...
It is our view, although we disagree with the actions of Aer Lingus, it's our view that they made pure commercial decisions. There was no other motivation, no ideology. It was just pure commercial decisions. I'm not saying we agree with it, but that's what they did, and the fallout was Shannon, which is dreadful. I think there is a wider debate that has to be had, though, about runways in Ireland, and the difficulty is that when you improve the network on a country the size of Ireland, you end up with the airports more and more competing with one another, and that's a bigger debate that has to be had at some time in the future.
Thanks, Mr. Cullen. Just to go back to SIPTU, I mean, do you agree with Ayalpa's assessment that it was based on a purely commercial decision-making process, this abandonment of Shannon by Aer Lingus?
I think all the decisions Aer Lingus make are based purely on commercial considerations, and I think that's been very apparent in the way that they've treated the staff right across Dublin, Cork and Shannon, across all grades as well. You know, nobody has been left unscathed by this. But I believe that if Shannon Airport was in a position that it was growing, and it was growing at the rate that Cork Airport was, for example, prior to COVID, those commercial decisions would have been a bit more difficult for the airline to make, because the Shannon routes would have been in a position where they were more profitable, and they would have been in a position where, you know, Aer Lingus would have been certainly much more inclined to take a punt on keeping them open for longer during the COVID crisis.
Lastly, the Ryanair approach, do you think there was any difference between how they approached the various airports?
No, Ryanair again made pure commercial decisions. However, Ryanair have received 600 million in sterling from the UK government, and that puts them in
Mr. Cullen.
Very difficult position to Aer Lingus.
Ryanair didn't differentiate in their approach between the airports?
Yes, I would share the assessment.